I heard it again. So no, I'm kidding. It's fine. Um, Remember, if you like what we're doing here, make sure to give us a positive rating on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to the show. Also, make sure to check out the YouTube channel at youtube.com/thatoneandrew, where full recordings of this podcast are posted along with a plethora of other videos. Check it out today and listen for yourself. Now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Doomed to Repeat, a history podcast. We are done with our election specials and we are back into the thick of it. I am your host, Andrew Arana, and today I am joined by my co-hosts, Levi Habiger and Matthew Arana. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Napoleonic Wars, and more specifically, we're going to be talking about Napoleon's early years in life, going up to the year 1800, and the turmoil of the French Revolution. That's it. That's the intro. Take it away.
Okay, wait, do we not get a question anymore?
Yeah, do we not get a question?
Yeah. Terrible fucking host.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
I'm gonna slap you through the fucking computer.
I forgot. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, we do a question and stuff, don't we?
I hate you.
Okay, here's your question for the week. Is Napoleon Italian or Corsican?
Oh, that's actually perfect. He's fucking Italian, motherfucker.
He was born.
There you go.
Okay. Was he Matthew? Was he born on Corsica? In Corsica.
Just because you're born on Corsica doesn't mean you're not Italian.
So he was. He's Corsican.
Corsica has been a part of Italy for like ever. It's just been like a territory.
We're gonna be bickering at each other for like the rest of the night. We're just gonna be bickering at each other.
As
Andrew, what do you think? Andrew,
the great Ben Shapiro, as the great Ben Shapiro once said, two things can be true at the same time. A man can be Italian and Corsican at the same time.
Okay, the big thing is like I don't give a fuck if he's Corsican. The thing is like when people say he's Corsican, they're like, "Oh, he's French." I'm like, "No, he's not French. He's Italian."
That's
no, he's French. He's Corsican.
Oh my God! Why are you playing devil's advocate right now? Why are you doing this?
There's nothing devil about me. I'm a child of God, and I'm also a child of facts.
Jesus is my number one homie, and I've got him on speed dial, and he just told me you're a motherfucking liar. You just straight capping.
Also, Levi, I have a question for you real quick about this.
What
was? Did you say Bon Cat?
No, I said boy.
What'd you say?
I said boy, that's cat. I spelled it out for you.
All right. Well, I have a question for you, Levi.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
What is Corsica?
Corsica is an island off the coast of Italy. I don't know too much about it. I do know. I believe that is where. One thing that is notable about it is that I don't know if it was this island or if it was a different island, but I do know that during the time of the Black Plague, the Black Death or the Great Plague over Europe in medieval times, Corsica, I think it was Corsica, was one of the only places in Europe that was not touched or did not see like a huge, was not greatly affected by the plague. And
good for them.
You could like make it like an end of the world scenario where like if everybody in Europe had died, then maybe the last people to be alive in Europe would probably be the people on that island.
Yeah, so Corsica would have ruled the world.
So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. No, you're definitely right. It is Corsica. Corsica was the one island that was fine because Sardinia got hit too because it's a larger island and it was a trading hub. But Corsica is the smaller northern island. But also, I know a good bit about Corsica and Sardinia. But the most I can say about it is the earliest relevance of it is back to when the Etruscan League ruled over Italy, like freaking 800 BC. And it was like one of the last places to be taken over by it wasn't Roman Empire at this time, just the Roman state, because they had to build boats and get over there. Yeah, but I guess it was no, I think it would have been the kingship at this time because
Kingship.
they
Because they
actually
formed
had
the
a like
Republic in
Roman
500
king.
BC. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a king, and then they formed the republic by overthrowing the Roman king. But they overthrew the Etruscan kings first. But it's a hotbed for archaeological discoveries, like from the
Mm.
Etruscan era, since it was one of the last places to be taken over.
You know, you know, we've done specials so many times because the last 2 weeks we did the election special, and then the time before that, if you recall, we did Vlad the Impaler too. That I've literally forgotten how this show runs.
Yeah.
Like that question at the beginning, I totally forgot that that's what we did, and like we also rank and things like that. So, for the uninitiated, because we do have a lot more people listening now, especially going through our distributor on Zencast. Shout out to our Indian bros. A lot of you are out there right now, and people in Ireland and Canadians and Americans and wherever else you are in the world. Welcome to Doom to Repeat, a history podcast. In case you're wondering what this show is, or maybe you haven't listened to the other episodes, what we do is we pick a specific topic or a generalized area and a point of history, and then we kind of go over what was going on in the world at this time, uh, who the important people were. We usually talk about wars. That comes up a lot. We could talk about how things were ran, the different types of government, religions. Um, Matthew is big into architecture, so we usually go over kind of how buildings were made and things like that. No mud huts in France at this time, sorry.
Actually, there
But
probably
we talk
was.
about all these. Okay, well, actually, there probably was. But putting that aside, today's episode is about the Napoleonic Wars, and it is going to be focusing on Napoleon, but we're actually not going to get to the Napoleonic Wars, ironically, in this episode, because this is going to be a two-part episode. So much happened with Napoleon and France and the world at this time. We're starting at 1769. This is known as the beginning of the era of revolution. Revolutions happened, of course, in America. They happened in France. They happened in Russia. They're happening everywhere. And at this time, the British were also controlling the world more or less. So there's a lot going on in politics and changing hands and the way things are ran. Democracy is taking over more. That's what a lot of these revolutions are going to. They're going to a more democracy government and things like that. So we're going to kind of focus on Napoleon at the beginning. Born in Corsica, he's Corsican. Perhaps he's Italian too. I don't know. Go ask his dad. But we're gonna start with him, and we're gonna start with where he comes from, why he's important, some of the earlier things that he did, such as his first campaign in Austria. We'll talk about how he went to Egypt and fought in the Battle of the Pyramids and things like that. And somewhere around there, we'll kind of hop back over to France and kind of talk about the revolution that's happening that began in 1789. How's that sound to you guys?
Pretty
Perfect.
good, except for yeah, sounds great.
Except for what?
No. I was gonna say something, but it's fine. We're good. We're Gucci.
Hmm. Hmm. Intriguing. Interesting. I wonder what secrets he could be hiding.
Who's starting us off? Who wants to give us a rundown of his younger
Oh
My
life?
man.
gosh, you guys couldn't shut up before we started recording, and now you're like mice.
Okay. Okay. No. No. I'll
uh,
start. I'll start. So what do we want to start? Do you want to start
you'll
with the
start?
man himself? You want to start with the man himself,
Yeah,
Napoleon?
yeah. We should start with
Napoleon.
Napoleon. Yeah,
Napoleon
our big. I call him
Bonaparte.
Big N. NB.
Napoleon.
Napoleon Bonaparte. So who is Napoleon Bonaparte? Well, he comes from an impoverished family of Corsicans, and he grows up.
Located in Corsica.
Okay, in Corsica. He will grow up to have seven siblings, all which become pretty important in the later, especially during his reign. A lot of his family members um, become kind of like lords and ladies of lands he'll take during the
Hmm.
Napoleonic Wars. But just give you ideas, like as a kid, um, why, like, what is the big deal with Napoleon? Well, let's go back just real quick to his father, Carlo Bonaparte. I'm just gonna say Bonaparte. It's spelled differently, but I'm just gonna say it's like Bonaparte. I'm just gonna say Bonaparte. Um, why is Carlo important? Um, in Napoleon's life. Well, he's not important. Like, he's important, but he's kind of like the bad kind of important. So, um, for like kind of like this period, there was a French um, takeover over Corsica, and Carlo decided, well, I'm not going to be on the losing side. And depending on how you see this, you could say he betrayed his fellow Corsicans, or you could say he was just a man trying to save his own family. Either way, he did what he thought he had to do, and his family became well off from that. And as soon as Napoleon would was growing up, as soon as like he began to learn, understand what his father did, he would grow up to resent his father. Um, I don't know how deep of a hate it was. I don't know if he necessarily hated his father, but he very much resented him. He very much saw him as a traitor, and he never really had a great relationship with him. With his mother, on the other hand, he had a marvelous relationship with her. In fact, he regards her many times as being very important in his life. She was kind of practically the one who raised him, if you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, her name was Maria Ramolino. Ramolino. So that was her name, and so you can kind of just like see like this family kind of shift, like
Hmm.
like in this dispute. We have Napoleon growing up, and he sees his father as a traitor. Now, did Napoleon have Corsican this idea of Corsican like nationality ideals and a love for Corsica? Maybe when he was young, you know, every kid when they grow up, they think that their nation is like great and they think it's the best thing ever,
Mm-hmm. I
right?
think it's the best. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and to hear that your father basically kind of just like was a traitor, you know, you know how that could like impact a young child, especially a young child who at 9 years old would be sent to a who would be sent to the French
He was
mainland.
sent to. Yeah,
He
I
was sent
just
to the
want to touch
military
on.
academy at sorry, I'm going to say the military at Brienne-le-Château.
Yeah, you're good. I was gonna let you get that out because I know it's a mouthful, but I just want to touch on some other
Listen,
things from his childhood.
I had French 101, baby. I know kind of how to pronounce these.
Kind of how to pronounce it.
French 101,
Come on,
baby.
phonetics are like the basic thing that you learn in a language, Levi. I hope you know
No
it. But
shit.
anyways, to digress from that, I just wanted to touch on some things from that. Yes, they were a well-off family and they were from Italian nobility, but that didn't mean that they were rich. They lived very within their means,
I did say
and it was kind of
impoverished. Yeah, I did say impoverished.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of an I'd say a good like way to describe it is they're they were more of like a middle merchant class sort of spot to where they lived day to day, and if something went wrong they would fall below the line, but they were very realist and they put those ideals into Napoleon as well when he was younger, and his mother ever since he was born drove into him that he was special and destined for something greater. And as you elaborated earlier how he got into the French military academy at the age of 9 is something extraordinary for what most people would think nowadays, but
Hmm.
back then is kind of what the normalcy was to send your kids off in a way as soon as possible so that they could get the best education.
Hmm.
And just I wanted are you going to talk about his time of schooling there? Because I have a little bit
Oh
on
yeah,
that too of how.
I can kind of touch upon that. When he arrived, he was kind of like the outlier of the crowd. Everybody kind of picked
Hmm.
on him a little bit. He like, hey, look at the Corsican kid. Like the French bullies.
He's not
Yeah,
Um,
kidding.
yeah. Well,
It's like a
I'm
fact.
not
racism,
kidding. Yeah, I'm not.
racism.
This wasn't
Uh,
racism,
I
but
don't
okay.
know if it.
Um,
Yeah, it wouldn't be racism.
That
It'd
that
be
it
like
sounds.
wouldn't.
If you're picking on someone because they're different from somewhere else, I mean that's kind of
they're not a
or they're
different race.
different.
Mm,
It's a
but
They're
different
saying, ah, you're Corsican.
nationality.
it's a different
Ah, you're
nationality.
Corsican.
Yeah,
But like,
it's like
okay,
they're.
it's
I don't.
It's second
kind
Yeah,
of falls.
class. It's
I'm just
classism.
okay.
It,
Yeah, yeah. It's
okay,
classism.
yeah,
It's
that I guess that
classism.
would fit it better. Yeah, it's
Because
classism.
I'm just not seeing it. But anyway, so when he gets there, he's kind of like the outlier. He's kind of getting picked on. He's the shy kid. But however, he does well in his studies. He's an accomplished student. I believe he learns French in less than a year. I believe. I don't remember how quick it took him to learn French, but he
Oh
learns it
yeah.
well. He learns it fluently. Um, then he begins kind of rising through. Like I can't remember the quote by like one of like his professors or whatever, but like his professors really. I don't think they really kind of disregarded him based on just because he was Corsican. I think that they kind of disregarded him because they kind of just thought maybe he was just kind of just like everybody else. Like, despite his good grades, despite everything else, he's pretty average when compared to everybody else. So I bet you want to like touch more upon that. Please do, and
Okay,
correct me if I'm
so
wrong on that.
no, everything you've just said there is very true. He was a very smart and talented student, but he also didn't like apply himself at most at the first time when he was in that first military academy. But once he moves on to the next one, which I think is in Paris, which I did not write down because I had 0% chance of pronouncing correctly. When he goes there, he starts quickly just like he shoots off the charts, and everybody, historians alike, have all said the man was a genius. Like if he wasn't pushed towards military ambition and martial ambition, because he did in the military academy they taught you just military strategy, that's it, but he also
Mhm.
picked up politics, he picked up history, he picked
He
up
picked up
like
science
other. Yeah, he was rounding himself out and doing everything he could to just be a better person. Philosophy. He was
philosophy.
he wanted to know all of it and he wanted to understand it all. And after he went to the second academy in France, he graduated the 2-year program in just 1 year because he was so good at his studies. And then he got his first military appointment, I think at the age
He
of
was
16.
commissioned as the second lieutenant.
Yes. He got it, but at the age of 16. That's
At the age of
wild.
16. This is very wild, especially in the late 18th century. Because we're at a time where these I would argue that these militaries in Europe are kind of just old and stubborn, and they will be old and stubborn until the Great War. We have um, countries with military histories that span like since like the 1400s, um, and they have like really strict old school doctrines that you have to follow by. And to see such a young man, especially in a country such as France, which by the way was not very I guess you could say liberal until the French Revolution. It was still very I would say
Yeah.
very traditionist is the word I would use. Very traditional, very conservative. So that is very that I would say that is a great achievement.
Yeah. And just some things to
Yeah,
point out that he was in this pursuit of greatness. He knew he was destined for
Yes,
something, but he would study the lives of great men such as Alexander the Great, Hannibal,
Alexander the Great
Attila the
was
Hun.
yeah.
What?
Oh, I was gonna say Alexander the Great
And
was like his role model.
yeah, Alexander the Great is every great leader's role model, just to go on a tangent, because of how young he was when he took out the Persian Empire, the oldest, strongest entity in the world at the time. And it's like this 18-year-old just beat the fuck out of him. Wild. But, anyways, but also when he was in his young ideological age, he was himself very liberal. And he did want a revolution. He wanted to get the monarchy out. He wanted all of that gone. But he believed in a French republic at this age. But later on, as we know, he ain't going to believe in a French republic forever.
Yeah, the Jacobins kind of ruined that.
But
Mm-hmm.
after that,
Andrew, you
he,
have it?
at his first.
Go ahead. Go,
Sorry?
go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Andrew,
I'm
you got
sorry.
anything to add?
To that, no, I don't know. So when I was looking this up and reading about it, just for some clarification, because I feel like this happens every episode, except the Japanese one, of course. But I knew nothing about Napoleon, of course. Obviously you know about Waterloo, which even then that you I only knew of the name. Something happened at Waterloo, and I also knew during this time, America purchased the Louisiana territory from France during their wars. And I also knew during this time that the French and Americans were kind of buddy buddy
There's a
against Britain.
my tie out.
But
The when Napoleon sold the made the Louisiana sold the Louisiana Purchase um,
mhm,
deal. He did it kind of cheaply, and I know what you're thinking.
very cheap.
Why did he do it very cheap? Well, it was mainly because it was a fuck you to Britain.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Because at this time,
yeah,
I mean, France and Britain were not friends
no, no,
at
no.
all.
And
Oh, yeah.
Napoleon was afraid that Britain would march down and try to take French land. So his goal was, well, I'll just
Mhm.
sell to the Americans, and Britain doesn't want to go to war against the Americans again. So he just sold it to them.
Nope.
Not yet, they didn't.
Not yet, they didn't. Then
That's
there was the
that's
War of
such a
1812, which nothing really happened as far as territory goes.
oh man.
They burned down the
I
White
would love to
House.
talk about the War of 18.
They burned down the White
The
House.
War of 1812. If the Britons, if just a quick little anecdote, at the War of 1812, Britain could have taken over America easily at that point. They were too sidetracked with other things, but if they like had focus, because America at this point was like broken and they had no order, and they were getting their asses kicked in the War of 1812. I'm just saying there's so much like other factors that made it to where America didn't quote unquote lose that war, even though they kind of lost that war. um but yeah, we'll talk about this some other time. Anyways, what I'll say is about this, what I know mostly is because I didn't know he went to Egypt or anything. I didn't know that
You
he
don't
went
know that he
to
went to
Austria
Egypt?
many times.
Oh,
No, I'd never heard or learned about any of that.
I believe his second wife was was like an Austrian something.
She was
He'd have
a
two wives.
princess from
Yeah,
Austria.
yeah, she was princess from
Was
Austria.
she from Austria? Did he have a third wife?
I don't believe so.
No,
I thought his second. I
no,
thought.
he had a fling somewhere. He had a fling with a Polish
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
archduchess.
that's what I'm. That's what
Duchess?
I'm thinking of then.
first
Okay,
wife.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Anyways, what I know mostly about this is that I know like starting at 1801, and I really focused my studying on all the different battles and his battle tactics, and all the different like coalitions happening, and all the different wars, and him kicking ass really until like
Where it happened.
1809, and then
No,
after that,
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I might have mentioned when.
I was just gonna say it was.
might just real quick mention like after he had graduated from that second military academy, he was like I said he was a commissioned as a second lieutenant for the L'Affaire
Mm-hmm.
Artillery. What how does this really shape Napoleon? Well, I'll tell you this: he becomes a mastermind with artillery. Artillery will be
Mm-hmm.
artillery is his thing up until like he really gets command of more and more troops. But we see this very I can't remember what was like I believe it was like the siege of Toulon, which would be like kind of like really the first battle where he's really kind of like just tested and they say hey get out there we need
Mm-hmm.
you and he just he stuns the French military with his with a very with a masterpiece of artillery barrage. It was insane.
Yeah, so I was reading about his artillery and how he used it, and he really was a pioneer in like the new way to use artillery because before artillery was used more for like support,
Mhm.
but he used it more how we use artillery modern day, which he would have it all focus on like a certain part of the line, and he would kind of like try to destroy the enemy's
The
line, like
grid,
on the left flank or something with artillery.
the grid.
L-
Oh, you don't know? Okay, so I to any of viewers who don't understand, artillery there's grid and like there's different grids with different letters and numbers, and they fire on these select grids, and sometimes if you get enough fire on just one selected grid, it looks like hell on earth. When
Mm-hmm,
every single
mm-hmm.
gun
Yeah, and
piece is
that's what he
Basically,
would do.
when every single piece when every single gun piece is fired on just that one grid.
Yeah. Napoleon basically would be like, fuck that area, blow them to kingdom come. And then, when you do that and you're fighting, like now your flank is exposed and it's throwing everyone into chaos. And then he had people wrapping around. Like, yeah, it was masterful. And it's kind of crazy that people didn't think about that before, but that's just kind of how things go. Things are done a certain way until you had that one person like, hey, guys, let's do it this way. It's so much better. It's like, oh yeah, look at that. But yeah, so that was in 1785 when Napoleon graduated and was ranked second lieutenant, and he was out there
yeah,
did
Toulon.
did the artillery stuff. Yep.
Yeah, to that his first victory at Toulon. I don't know how to properly
Too
pronounce it. Was
long.
in 1793.
Too
Toulon.
too
I do have it
too
written
long.
like that. Toulon.
Yeah, and that's when he was promoted to the brigadier general,
Yes,
brigadier.
And I
but
gotta
And
also add.
being
Go
promoted.
ahead, Matthew.
Sorry, go ahead. No, you can go ahead real quick.
I
Just
was gonna,
addition.
okay, I was gonna say the only reason why he was put in that place, I can't remember whoever the commander was, but Napoleon had just gotten done. I believe it was too long. He had just gotten done writing his first piece of political um God what it was like his first kind of like little book and it was a political piece. But that really kind of like got his name out there. Really showed who he was and why like a lot of the generals like kind of liked him. Yeah, I'm sorry I can't remember the
yeah,
name of the short little book he made, but it was well liked. So the
Yeah,
military commanders loved. I will say that.
because of his aggressive military doctrine. That's why they loved him, because he was also the type of person
Well,
as well.
it
He led from the front.
wasn't really just about it wasn't really about the military. It was about political life in France with a touch of military in there, I believe.
Mm.
yeah.
But
Sorry, I had a mad sneeze go on.
but
Continue.
anyways, the way that Napoleon led also shocked people too, because they were used to this type of warfare. When we think of what they did there, they were still doing what the French did during the Revolutionary War against the United States, and they would just line up and have a gentleman's battle to where you would just stay in those lines and fire at each other until one person lost more because the other person had better quality weaponry or more troops. Napoleon didn't want to fight that way. Napoleon is the kind of guy that's like, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to outflank you. I'm going to send my troops up, pull them back, barrage you, send my troops back in, and then I'm going to cut you in half with my cavalry. He is the person that is, when they say he revolutionized warfare, he revolutionized warfare like for the entire world, because he was doing
Yep.
things.
When I was reading about that,
Go
I was
ahead.
doing what? Oh, no, I was gonna say yeah. So again, I know nothing about history. Only American history really is what I know. But reading about this, what was that? What was that? Huh?
What?
Huh?
Hey.
What was that? Are fighting words? Are you fighting words? I'll come over there. I'll come through this screen.
I said the best history. Anyway, continue.
Okay, gotcha. That's what I fucking thought. Anyways, so reading about Napoleon, yeah, he really revolutionized because before, you're right, they're still doing like the lines and stuff. But what was it?
Are you going to keep talking? What are you doing?
I just wanted to see how long I'd be quiet. But yeah, this is more later though, Matthew. About his like, because he did the thing where he didn't travel as one big army, but he made the like whole bunch of smaller armies, and that's
way
how he would
later.
outflank his enemies.
Stop that right now. No, he does this type of
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying.
Like right now, because he goes to Italy in 1796, but we're not to Italy yet. Right now, we're at the position to where he is getting promoted like crazy because the French Revolution is going on, and they're fucking chopping people's heads all over. The new governments they're instituting, everybody's going through power changes all the time, and he is getting rapidly promoted because he is fighting against the loyalists who want to reinstate the monarchy. But he
kind of.
What was that? You
make it. Maybe we should just kind of like lay the groundwork for what France looks like right now, and the position.
Yeah, so we should
right now.
Yeah, so that's more in the beginning of Napoleon. We should like lay the groundwork because people probably don't know what's going on in France right now. Before we do that, though, fun fact, and I don't know if this is true because the internet is a bitch and lies everywhere, but I heard that the Eiffel Tower, before it was picked the final design, there was one of the options was to make it a giant guillotine.
Hell yeah!
Take that for what you will.
Hell yeah! Decapitate.
I think that's much baller.
At once, all the aristocracy at once.
I think that's much baller and like kind of big dick energy, but the Eiffel Tower is cool too. Anyways, continue.
So do you want me to set it up? Because that's kind of what I was doing. I was saying that the whole all of France at this time is really pissed off because of King Louis and how absent-minded the fucking cocksucker was, and his fucking wife, Antoinette.
Okay. So here's Matthew, you can't do that unless you actually tell us why he's a cocksucker.
Because the guy's a communist prick that's spending all the money on himself. All the people are starving to death. They're getting thrown in prison for stealing a loaf of bread for 10 years. They are basically becoming slaves for 10 years for stealing a loaf of fucking bread. The man had fought so many wars, sucked. Britain just beat their ass at everything. And the man racked up so much debts, but only cared about himself and the aristocracy and let the people suffer.
All
right, there you go. So yeah.
The thing the dude did was lend troops to America.
All right, well there you go. So yeah, he sucks dick. Now you can say that. Now you can say that. Now you can be like, hey, King Louis, you suck dick.
Well, I can say he sucks dick and then elaborate on why he sucks dick. Don't jump on my dick just because I haven't gone on to why he sucks dick.
All right, but when you say something like that, that just makes it sound like you're saying this French leader sucks dick.
I mean, he probably did suck dick too, so I mean, he's French.
So let's get on with it.
You can't say that though. That you cannot say. You can't say that he sucks dick because he's French.
You just told me we had no French listeners, so I'm good.
And it's going to stay that way after this.
Hey, My French homies, how's Macron going? How's the gas prices? How's it happen in Paris?
All
You
right.
still
Hey,
smell
shut
like
up!
piss?
All right. No,
Shut up!
you,
Shut up!
you know what?
Up. Shut the
Stick
fuck up!
with 17. Stick
Yeah,
with 1789.
fuck up.
Go ahead.
Fuck you suck dick. Anyway, so the
1796.
French Revolution is bad. Why is it bad? People are getting their heads chopped off left and fucking right. Um, we have
And dude, we're talking thousands, tens of thousands.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said left and
Like,
right. Anyway, we have the most notable leaders of the French Revolution. The most notable that I know of, a man by the name of Robespierre, who is the most, how you say, radical of the bunch.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
He gets his head I don't know why. I can't. I don't know too much about Robespierre, but I just know along the way he fucks up somehow, and yeah, he kind of just gets his head chopped off. The same thing that happened to Louis XVI. By the way, Marie Antoinette, his Louis XVI's wife, also got her fucking head chopped off. Pretty sure. I
Felt pretty
believe.
bad for her because she honestly seemed kind of just empty-minded.
Mm,
Well,
I
that is
believe
the sin. So
I believe another famous leader of the French Revolution was well, I don't know how to pronounce George in French, so I'm just gonna say George Danton. Danton. He would be killed in
Tonton.
Danton. He would be killed in France, in Paris, France. Um, on the a couple months, he would be killed a couple months sorry, he would die a couple months before Robespierre. So don't know too much about the
If
French
you guys,
Revolution leaders, but those were kind of like the main figures. And why does the French Revolution happen? Well, as we stated with the whole dick sucking thing earlier. Um, but
there's a lot of dick.
what was also a good
It
cause?
still sucks dick.
That was also the American Revolution was also kind of a factor,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, in especially with the whole Age of Enlightenment philosophy sweeping across the world. You know, all
mm-hmm.
like we can like say for days that maybe the founding fathers probably didn't live up to what they preached. I don't care. That's an entire different conversation. I'm not going to have it now. Um, but the age of enlightenment is kind of sweeping through the world. It's slow, but it's kind of sweeping through the world. Of course, the only place where it's not popular, Britain. They're an empire, of course. But in France,
Mm-hmm.
you see these, people are starving. They're being thrown in prison. This kind of goes back to when we were talking about China, and this is completely different. But all I'm saying is that when Mao Zedong would go to the peasant villages and be like, "Hey, you know, if you get with me, you'll have food for the rest of your life." And that's what he promised them. And it was kind of like that way in France. These people, they're desperate and they needed a change. And how Napoleon fit into that, I would really like you guys to discuss how Napoleon really fit into that coming of change. With the French Revolution, because I know, I believe you stated before, Matthew, that he wasn't a loyalist at first, but then he later became a loyalist.
No.
No, he
He
didn't.
was always
Loyalist.
fighting against the loyalists who wanted to institute a new monarchy. And there was like, it was fractured. It wasn't just like one group at one time fighting against another group. It was like you had the loyalists, then you had the people who wanted it to be a republic, then you had the people who wanted to be a democracy, then you had the people who wanted just a different like monarchy, you had the people who wanted this, that, and the other, and it was just a complete fucking mess. So he was in one of those other parties that was fighting against the old regime loyalists, fighting against the original people who wanted to institute the monarchy, which those people, those loyalists that were trying to put in a new king through the ties of Europe, were backed by the rest of Europe, because Europe was like, well, this is a power vacuum. We can't have a power vacuum, but it's also an opportunity that we can put somebody who will be kind to us, somebody who we can kind of control in power in France.
I'm sure a lot of those kingdoms were also afraid of there being a republic as well. Like kind of like being afraid of
You
this domino effect, if you will.
you're correct with that assumption as well, because at this time it was kind of
Should have had a
on
revolution.
the European stage. It was the time of revolution, and everybody was changing governments, and kings were getting overthrown all the time, and that's just
I'm
it
not
was
talking
a big danger to them. But I think they tried a democracy first,
in
if I'm
France.
correct. Yeah, after the first revolution,
Now
and
I'm
I
not
think
talking.
that's why Pierre got his head cut off, is because the democracy failed and nothing was happening for the people. And they're like, "Dude, you've been here a year. Where's all the change?" He's like, "It takes time," and they're like, "Bye."
Yeah, I think that's what happened too.
Like, I honestly believe it's because of democracy. Like, don't get me wrong, I do, to an extent, like democracy, but I
Oh boy.
understand its many, 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 many shortcomings and how it has failed way more times than it's worked.
Yeah.
So
Wait,
I'm
wait.
just leave that with there with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
I was looking at something real quick. I mean, yeah, and that's fair. You
yeah.
can have that.
So, anyways, this is what Napoleon's in. He's in just this entire kind of hellscape of politics, to where you have to constantly be backing the people that's in power, but also backing your own hellscape. You like that?
I do.
It's, it's just what it was, and like so he's constantly trying to back the right people, to where like when the majority of the civilian population, because it was mob rule at that time as well, because they were just, if they didn't like you, bye bye head. So he's constantly trying to back the right party, but then he keeps getting promoted again and again and again, and he gets up to brigadier general at the age of 24. Incredible rank to get by the age of 24, but also not too surprising with all the turmoil he's in, lots of opportunity. So, but this position makes him a target, a political target. And then he
Mhm.
gets imprisoned by his political enemies for, I think, a year or so. But then
It was just a year, yeah.
after he gets out of prison, he's stagnant. He's not given a military command. He's just kind of loafing around, gets real depressed, even to the point to where he's like, you know what?
Uh,
I should probably just kill myself. You gonna say something?
after 94, what?
I'm sorry.
After he
Yeah,
was imprisoned?
yeah. After he was imprisoned, he thought he like got to the depths to where he was like, my life is fucked. Like my career is over. My ambitions are done for. I'm just gonna kill myself. He got to that point, but he didn't.
Maybe. Because what I
No.
heard,
Yes.
what I read was in after he got imprisoned on suspicion of supporting whichever group. So his political enemies or whatever were like, you're with them, you go into horny jail. And he's like, what? And then bonk.
I want to hit you
So he
so
went to
hard in the
prison,
face.
and then a year later, he helped with the Royalists 13 rising. He like helped stop them or something. And then a year after that, he was already in command again. So maybe for a hot second he was depressed or something, but he jumps right back in there and he got right back into command.
Okay, yes, but the reason that he got to that point though is because politics in this time were very unforgiving, as I've just earlier stated, how most people, I didn't state that they would have their careers destroyed. Most of the time you'd get killed. Having your career destroyed was preferable to having yourself dragged out in public, stripped naked, and have your head chopped off. Yes, but having, to a person like him with major ambitions, having your career destroyed is basically the same as being killed or dying. So he was down in those depths, but yes, there was always opportunity for him to get back up on the horse, both
And which he did.
literally and metaphorically. Yes, correct. And you are correct. He helped suppress the loyalists that came out in a mob. A bunch of civilians came out and tried to put in a new king or something. and he just brought cannons right out in the street of Paris and blasted them away.
Yep. Yep. Fucking Mad Lad was like, I got you. Could you imagine for a second if we did shit like that today? That would be fucking baller. Like, people wherever, like, I don't know, whatever nation protesting, and all of a sudden there's fucking, oh, I guess, you know what, never mind. China did that. They brought tanks
China?
out. And I guess, no, that's not baller. Never mind. Redact that. It sounds cooler than it actually is.
You're thinking of this from the term of American politics, to where like, oh, it's gonna get filmed, where instead it just gets deleted in other world politics.
Yeah. Okay. I like that image though, of just like, you know, I'm protesting, turn a corner, and there's fucking 30 cannons facing you. Like, you know what? Never mind. I'm going home. It's not worth it, guys. Bye. But yeah, so he did that, and then do you know how he got back into command? Like, who gave him command?
It
Because
was
that was
I can't remember who gave him command, but it was like
because
an
it was the French
emergency.
army in Italy that he went to.
Yeah, it was an emergency sort of situation that put him in the command of the defense in Paris. They were just like, fuck, we have nobody. What do we do? And they're like, okay, give it to Napoleon. But
It's like,
after
this guy.
yeah, before he goes to France, do you guys want to talk about his courtship with Josephine?
She cheated the fuck on him. Oh, and she spent his money like there was no end in sight. But that mainly happened while he was over in Egypt, and I think it was
Yeah,
like over
well, she was kind of a floozy too before they got together,
she had a
because
lot
her
of
husband died.
Yeah, she had a lot of rumors beforehand, and she was a bit older for Napoleon for this time anyway. But hey, you know what? I can't disrespect my guy. You know, sometimes older women.
Do you know how old she was?
No, but
No, but she was definitely older.
she was definitely older than him.
But
all right, yeah, I know nothing about her. Like I
no, but so who was Josephine? I don't believe they ever had a kid together, did they?
No, they did not.
No.
And that was one thing Napoleon was pissed about. He really wanted an heir. He really wanted. I do believe he wanted a family, and I do believe he wanted to be a family man. But most importantly, if he has such grand aspirations to be the emperor of Western Europe, I need an heir. So
Yeah, there's argument to be made that, and this is taking away from the history part and just going more into human psychology part. But there is at this point. So you're saying that he went to jail, he was pretty depressed and things like that. He had lost his job basically. What are you doing, Matthew?
What do you mean? I'm just
It
chilling.
just got all right. I don't know what you did, but it got super echoey and it sounded like there was an AC going on or something. I don't know. Maybe you leaned back. I'm not sure. Anyways, it sounds better now. But just looking at this from human psychology, do you know when they married? When they got together? What year?
Yes, I know exactly when.
it would be like
They got married in. They got married in
when?
1796, 4 days before he went to Italy.
Okay, so which means they were together before that, and that's when they got married.
Yes, they courted
so
for
there is
a
something,
year.
maybe. So they could have, like, this could have been a situation where maybe Napoleon was looking for that family life and stuff. And just because you have great ambition doesn't mean that you want to be an emperor and destroy like every nation in your way and stuff. But sometimes it just takes one bad relationship and one bad person to kind of send a person down that, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm going to do this now. I'm going to devote everything to this thing because I tried that other thing. And I know he gets married again and things like that. But at that point, you kind of have your goal set.
Well, I mean, you're right about that when it comes to like people getting on the warpath because of a broken heart and because a bad love experience in the past. But that's not what happened with Napoleon at all. Like, nah. Josephine actually had kids from her other marriage, and he loved them like his own children. Like, he loved them unconditionally. So, but we'll get back to Josephine because she is a part of the topic after Egypt too. But after he gets married, after they've courted
let's
for
go to
about a
Italy.
year, he gets sent to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And the one reoccurring theme you will keep seeing with Napoleon is when he gets put in places or he goes to places, they tell him, well, this will never be conquered or this will never be done because it just won't be done. It's impossible. And when he's sent to
And
Italy,
then that motherfucking G gets those dubs. That's what he does.
yeah, the man was, simply put, the man was a G.
The man was fucking Michael Jordan. If you think about it, he kind of was.
No.
Shut up. Anyway.
I want to
Anyway.
hit you with something solid.
Listen,
Hey, yo, no, it's kind of true. If you compare it to Michael Jordan,
listen,
what did Michael Jordan do?
No, shut the fuck up, man. No, Andrew, shut the fuck up because I'm going to put it to you like this.
Why'd you say
On the field
me?
of battle. Sorry,
I don't know why he said ye.
Shut up. But I'm going to tell it to you like this, Andrew. Listen. On the field of battle and being a tactician, Napoleon could run circles around Michael Jordan for days. However, on the field of the court of basketball, Michael Jordan would break that small Corsican little fucker's ankles, okay? They are not the same person. That motherfucker stood at
Motherfucker, obviously they're not. They're not the same person.
Just shoot him with
stood at
artillery.
5'6". Michael Jordan would dunk on him so hard.
Side note.
Oh my gosh, I need to see an edit of that.
I'm just talking 101 on the basketball court.
Have you guys seen that they're gonna that they're talking about raising the height of the basketball goals for professional NBA?
Oh, I believe it.
Just quick.
I believe it.
They're gonna raise it like a
That's
foot.
whack. That's whack.
My man Steph Curry already can't do nothing, but now they're making it higher.
Anyways,
sorry. Back to Italy.
My fucking comparison was how Michael Jordan dominated for 6 years in a row, and obviously Napoleon was longer than 6 years. But then he went on a little stint to do something else. Napoleon got exiled, and then he came back, and then he kind of sucked for the rest of his career, and then he got sent off to North Carolina or wherever to obscurity. And all they talk about is his golden days. Napoleon's kind of the same way. When he started the beginning of the Italian campaign,
yeah, okay.
But do you not see the comparison? The beginning of the Italian campaign was.
I don't think it's the best.
It was the beginning of consistent. I think it is the greatest comparison. Napoleon is basically Michael Jordan.
No.
Fine. He's LeBron James.
Continue.
Whatever.
Oh my God, stop.
No, but continue because I'm interested in your maniacal madness.
It makes perfect sense.
If you don't think about
Napoleon. No, if you really think about it, it makes perfect sense. In Italy, Napoleon, I don't think.
Andrew, I'm just real quick.
I don't think he loses.
But if I think about it, I'm going to get sent to a fucking asylum. But please continue.
All right. I don't think Napoleon loses a battle in this campaign. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh.
I don't think Napoleon loses a battle decisively for years. And he fights quite a few battles.
Oh.
And this dude, it's like you said, like there's like nations that are like, oh, you can't take that over. You can't do that. You can't beat that. Napoleon's like, fucking bet. Let's do this. And he goes in and many times outnumbered, still beats down his opponents. And what I was saying to the Michael Jordan thing was, Michael Jordan, the same way, in the end got the dub 6 years in a row. Now, Napoleon was doing great until he wasn't doing great. And that was Russia. And Napoleon was like, I'm going to go to Russia because I got this. And
but
it's
that's
like,
later. That's later. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's later. You're skipping so far ahead.
I know.
Because there's lots of encounters
I'm giving a comparison. Motherfucker, no shit. I'm doing a comparison right now. Napoleon went to Russia like I got this, just like Michael Jordan went to baseball saying I got this, guys.
I think this is a little
But he
bit
didn't get it.
kind
And
of
then
funny
he came
comparison.
back. And then he came back to basketball. Just like Napoleon was like, fine, I'll go back to Western Europe. But it wasn't the same. He couldn't beat Spain. He couldn't win the chip. Napoleon is Michael Jordan.
I think you should
He
have
is.
saved this for the end of like maybe the second part. You've done this like in the middle of the beginning of the first part, and I don't know why. You've like because
I'm
you keep
giving an
talking about
overview. I'm giving an overview. It's an overview. We're in the golden years right now.
Anyway.
Anyways, I don't. Which one of you know more about Italy? Start with Italy. Yeah, yeah. Go.
I know more about when he went to Egypt.
Oh, this
All
is
right, Matthew.
perfect. This is perfect.
What's going on in Italy?
The guy who doesn't
Matthew,
shut
what
up
do you
about Italy gets to talk about Italy. So
Let's talk about the Corsicans.
Italy is a fucking mess.
And it will be a mess throughout the rest of the 19th century.
Yeah, this is just like it's gonna be a short reprieve of like, oh, there's kind of some semblance of order now and like stuff together. But this is only for like northern Italy. There's still the papal states. There's still the like domain of Naples and then Sicily. Those don't matter. We're talking about basically northern Italy, like Florence, Milan, Venice. That's it. So like a small part of Italy.
Yeah.
And it's a big mess for the French over there because they have an army that is neglected, to say the least. They aren't properly drilled, they aren't properly trained, they aren't properly equipped. They just have no drive, no ambition, nothing to follow, no reason to fight better.
You're just foot loggers.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Sorry, foot
when
sloggers.
yes, correct. And when he gets there, he has a big thing in front of him. He has 4 different nations with 4 well-trained, well-equipped armies that are larger than his. So Napoleon gets straight to work, though. He's the kind of man that he's not going to lounge around and leave it to his subordinates to get stuff done. He's down there with the men, inspiring them, getting them trained, getting better equipment, requisition, setting up supply lines, all of this. The man is nonstop. He goes, goes, goes. He lives, breathes, dies military. And he gets his army into fighting shape, and he goes out in his first battle. Who did he fight first? It's gonna.
I don't know. It was the battle. It was the battle of Lodi, though, or Lodi, however you want
Lodi?
to pronounce it.
Okay, in this first battle, he's fighting an army to where he is outnumbered, and he uses his superior tactics to his advantage, and he just blows them away. This is when he's using Italy also as kind of a testing ground for all the tactics that he developed while he was going to the academy and while he was in prison and while he was waiting for political reinstatement. All of these strategies, these new ideas that he wanted to test out, and Italy is the perfect place for him to test them. And he favors the strong use of artillery to punch a hole, and then he likes to drive a hole into the enemy lines, split it in two, and then do a full envelopment. Kind of like a double pincer move. I know that's really, really military terminology. So basically, a pincer move, to break it down real quick, is when you have the enemy come into what we call a killing zone, and you have kind of a false front of men that are just meant to hold them there, while your actual attacking forces come around and envelop and encircle the enemy from the sides. First used by Hannibal of Carthage on the Romans, and it was very effective. So he uses this tactic, which tactics like these have been not used or lost for centuries in Europe. They just really liked getting in lines and shooting at each other, or getting in lines and beating the fuck out of each other in mud in full plate armor. So he's bringing back these old tactics of always on the move, always changing and adapting to the battlefield, not just single linear, two-dimensional combat anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say he beats his enemy, but that's a bit of an understatement. He annihilates his enemy, taking
Demolishes.
minimal losses. He just obliterates them, and they're shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes and does this 3 more times. Each time, he is still outnumbered by a superior fighting force, and he beats them every single time because he is just a man on the move on the battlefield. He is constantly knowing what his enemies are going to do, exploiting it perfectly, waiting for the right time to let the ambush develop, and just catching them perfectly. It is,
Mm-hmm.
to a tactician, he is textbook. He is the textbook for tactician now, from just how good he was doing it and how he was.
Oh yeah.
It's it was amazing to read up on and watch his actual like battle tactics. It's, if you guys get some free time, I recommend everyone just go and watch his battle tactics if you are into military history at all. It is just, you watch and it's like, that's that's perfect. It's like a piece of art, like a Picasso, or like something made by Da Vinci, or I don't know, some other famous artist. And it's like, that's beautiful.
Leonardo.
Yeah, I
Oh,
said Leonardo. I said Da
no, you
Vinci.
did not. Nah. His name's Leonardo. Um, yeah,
But he
everything
conquers
you
all of
say.
northern Italy
Yeah,
in
so he
summed up
wins. And
in a year.
was that the coalition? Was that the first one that he was going against?
I think so, and I think it was like Austria, Milan, maybe another northern Italian, like northern Italian thing, but I can't remember if Britain was in it too or not, because Britain's always just at the throat of France too. Let me check real quick.
Br-
Talk
yeah,
about some battle.
Britain's always just kind of there. Obviously they're dealing with a lot of other things. At the beginning, Britain wasn't really involved personally. They helped a lot with like, oh, we're gonna supply you, or we'll do these things, or we'll cut off supplies and things like that. But they weren't. Well, Levi made a noise, so maybe
Oh
not.
no,
But that's what I read was.
no,
Oh,
you
okay,
go
okay.
ahead.
Um, yeah, because it wasn't until like I think Spain was when Britain first like actually physically started fighting Napoleon. Well, okay, Egypt, their navy did. But I meant like
Mm.
troops on the ground type thing in Spain. I'm
Oh
pretty
yeah,
sure
you'll
was
see
the
that a
first
lot
time that they
between.
did that.
Oh yeah, you'll definitely see that throughout the whole Napoleonic Wars with Britain and France.
Mm-hmm.
We have the elephant
Okay,
first the well, and Britain rules the sea, um, and however
Yeah.
they
all the
can't.
time.
But however, France rules the land. So, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
it's the battle of the well for first the elephant. Neither of them can fight each other on their strengths, and neither of
On
them
their
will
turf or whatever.
on
Yeah.
their turf, and neither of them will try to fight the other one on their turf. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Yep.
just that
Yep.
it's kind of just a stand down. Sorry, yeah, a stare down war.
Um.
I have the
So
coalition people if you want to hear it real quick.
yeah, go ahead real quick, and then I have something to say. But yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
so the coalition that they were fighting in northern Italy, which kind of does makes a little bit of sense, but not too much, was Prussia, Austria, Milan, and one other Italian kingdom that I can't remember. But he beat all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll see Prussia come in later. They're a big
Prussia
deal.
becomes very
Um.
prevalent, and they have a long-standing
Mm-hmm.
military
I
history.
think that's going to be the next episode, though, sadly.
Definitely.
Yeah, Prussia. Yeah. For anyone that is interested to see how Napoleon's battle tactics actually worked, and this for you guys too. So what I did was I went on YouTube and just kind of looked up the Napoleonic Wars, and it came up with this channel called Epic History TV.
Yeah,
I'd never
yeah,
heard of
epic
them
history,
before. They
baby,
have
epic history, baby.
eight hundred
Yes,
seventy six
yes,
thousand subscribers, so they're kind of a big
yes.
deal.
I'm one of
But
them.
they have from 1803 to 1815 like every single battle Napoleon was in. And this is what I watched, and this is why I know like a lot of things after the after the year 1800. But what they do is they have these animations that like actually show the battlefield, and they'll show exactly what happened. and be like, okay, well, he did this, and then these troops moved around over here, and then he had this battalion up here that moved south, and then he broke apart. And the thing that they always talked about, which relates kind of to this, is and obviously Napoleon was still kind of lesser known at this point. People knew about him, but it's not like the enemy was like, oh shit, it's Napoleon. But we'll learn quickly that generals don't want to face Napoleon alone. They are scared to because they know that they're going to lose if they go one-on-one. If they go toe-on-toe with Napoleon, they're taking that L. And these coalitions that pop up become more and more important. And I think in the end, they're on the sixth one. So they kept trying over and over and over with different people and kept like disbanding and then coming back together and things like that, all to kind of take down France, because France at this point, or not at this point, but soon is going to start taking over most of Europe. But it starts here in Italy. And yeah, Napoleon wins the Battle of Lodi, however you pronounce it, and Arcole in 1796. And then at the beginning of 1797, he wins in Rovali. And this is like the thing you're saying. It was like, is Napoleon actually going to win? I don't think he's going to, but he does. And he comes back to France a hero. And this is only 3 years after he was in prison in France. So it's kind of like he kind of did a 180 there, and now he's like this national hero for them. Is there anything else you want to say about Italy? Because the first time, I mean, it's important because it's the beginning, but it's not like one of the most important things. It's not really.
Yeah, there's other thing that I'd like to touch on about Italy in general, which is a very important thing with Italy. Technically, at this certain point in time, the Holy Roman Empire is still around. Just at this point, it won't be pretty quick. Pretty quick, it's going to go away. But, like, it's technically not there anymore, but, like, it's in a very ambiguous state to where it doesn't really have any land or power. But the Holy Roman Empire is technically still there. But also the papacy, we will see time and time again, the papacy does not like Napoleon at all.
The papacy. Define who that is. Who's the papacy?
The Pope.
The Pope.
The Catholic Church.
Gotcha.
The Catholic Church.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
But besides that, we're good to go on to Egypt.
Yeah, 1797 Treaty of Campo Formio with Austria signed, ending the Italian War.
This goes back.
And yeah, he comes back a hero.
Yeah, I was going to elaborate, and that whole thing with the papacy, that also goes down to like the whole Habsburg, whole Habsburg Austro-Hungarian bullshit. But Egypt. What is Egypt at this time? Well, Egypt is a nation in North Africa. And what is Egypt kind of doing at this time period? Well, Egypt's kind of just like this. Think of it as like a bit of like a treasure island, I guess you could say. It's kind of like this distant land. You like a lot of people in Europe only read about it in books, and and Egypt is a very Islamic nation at the time. And who is it ruled by? It is ruled by the Mamelukes, who are renowned warriors. How did the Mamelukes come into power? Well, I think back in the 13th century, the Sultan of Egypt had purchased many Mamelukes from Armenia. A lot of them were young men. Throughout time, the Mamelukes would become, I guess you could even say, maybe like a social class, like we saw with the samurai in Japan. But the Mamelukes would then oust the Sultan, and then the Mamelukes would be in power. As to why Napoleon went to Egypt, does anybody know the reason why? Because that is one thing I don't know. Why did he go to Egypt?
Oh, I can tell you why.
Why?
The reason he went to Egypt is because during this whole time too, France is still at war with Britain, but they can't really. Because of Britain's strong navy, they really don't have anywhere that they can hit Britain. So exactly. Napoleon's like, well, they're in Egypt, they're in North Africa. I'm going to fight them in North Africa, which is perfect for him because of the history of this exotic land, but also because it lets him strike a blow at the British Empire.
Oh, so
Well,
that's why. Just to get at the
is
Brits.
that what, is
Yes,
that
to
what
get
he
at the
goes?
Brits.
Well, Napoleon
Gotcha.
gets to Egypt, and here's the thing about the Egyptian desert. It's hot. In the summertime, temperatures can get as high
No
as
fucking
130
way.
degrees. And Napoleon is, as we should say, very economical with his troops. Let's just say when they marched across the desert to get to Cairo,
He's cheap.
they were they barely had any water, proper supplies. I think about like maybe like 1 to 3 hours in, his soldiers were already taking off their thick wool coats. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know how long they marched? I believe it was like almost, oh, like maybe half a month. I
I have no
believe
idea, but yeah, it must
I
have been like at least 2 weeks.
2 weeks at the most. It was terrible for his troops. Like we're talking, they would begin to have hallucinations, mirages. Some of his troops would commit suicide. The lack of water was nearly unbearable. The dust from the sand would make their throats even drier. Even when they'd find a well, it was empty immediately. And when they had reached the Nile, it was those that they had reached the gates of heaven itself. Like his soldiers had ran to the Nile River. A lot of them had jumped in, even with their clothes and rifle on. So that's some waste of gunpowder right there. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Mm-hmm.
they just gorged themselves on the river, sorry, on the waters of the Nile. Some would even like float in it for like almost upwards of an hour, because this is a long time since they've seen water. So now let's get back to the business at hand. Napoleon has reached Cairo, and now the Mamelukes know that he's here, and there's going to be one battle. As far as I'm concerned, there's only one great battle between the Egyptians and Napoleon during his campaign in Egypt. And Napoleon really, at this time, really kind of sees himself the beginning of him taking the role. So sorry, believing that he's following in the footsteps of Alexander the Great. You know, like when it comes to Europe fighting a battle with Egypt, especially like I believe like Northeast Africa. This hasn't happened in a very, and I do mean a very long time. In fact, it was like
Yeah.
the first in very many centuries. So Napoleon is kind of on like this, this the self and like this self fulfillment quest of
Mm-hmm.
I am the one to do this. This is where I am destined for greatness, and this will be proven and tested in the Battle of the Pyramids. I don't know who the Mameluke leader was at the time, but the Mamelukes came out in force. They were great. They were known as great swordsmen and horse riders. But of course, they also used muskets and flintlock pistols as well. Um, they even had battle axes as well. Um, and as and here's the thing about the Battle of the Pyramid is that the Battle of the Pyramids. Um, Listen, Napoleon had this what could we say, a reputation of giving his battle the name of his battles really cool names.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is because the Battle of the Pyramids didn't really take place next to the pyramids. In fact, I believe it was like where it actually took place was like 40 miles away. You could like see the pyramids
You could
off in the
still see
distance.
him.
Yeah, you could still see them off in the distance. But really, the battle took place on a location known as of Imbaba, which was a watermelon field.
That's a
Nice.
lot. Oh my gosh, that is so less epic.
But think
Because when you
about this
hear
though.
Battle of the Pyramids,
But I mean, think about this. Like Napoleon knows what he's doing. Nobody wants to hear about the Battle of Mbaba or the Battle of the Watermelon Field.
The man was making propaganda before he was even in charge.
Exactly. He had a name to
oh
make,
man, I
and
love this guy even more.
boy was he gonna make it. So
No,
what happened?
that makes sense though. Like you're
Yeah.
trying to become a legend, so you're like, yeah, Battle of the Watermelons. That's fucking lame. But like you start saying, hey, this was the fucking Battle of the Pyramids, and I won. It's like that's way cooler. Way
Yeah.
cooler.
So what is the Mameluke tactic? Well, it's the same as they've always done. Really, charge in with their cavalry and kill. Napoleon understands
Yeah.
these, so he does the classic square formation. Well, he has his riflemen set up in the front, kind of, and he has his cavalry in the middle, and so forth. Classic Napoleon moves. And as
Mm-hmm.
the Mameluke army just rushes in, they are just mowed down by the riflemen. Oh, it is bloody. Mameluke bodies just begin to flood the battlefield. Um, I believe the casualties for this was 289 French were killed, and around 20,000 Mamelukes were killed.
Holy shit.
The meat grinder.
That's it.
That's
That
Yeah.
is
that's it.
wild.
That is what the Wikipedia articles said. So,
That
I
is
trust Wikipedia.
crazy.
that is it's crazy. And whether or not you think this was a bad thing or not, I mean, I don't really look at it as like a good thing, but it was a different time. The thing about the Mameluke warriors was that they were dressed in very beautiful jewelry and pearls on them, to really distinguish themselves as warriors. As payment for the absolute suffering the French soldiers had to go through, that those who had survived marching through the fucking desert, they picked up they stripped as much of the jewelry off the dead Mameluke soldiers' bodies as much as they can. Sorry, as much as they could.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not you think that's wrong or not, I don't necessarily agree with it. But you know what? It was a different time. It was a different time. um,
War is war.
War is war, and and then after the defeat of the Mamelukes, uh, Napoleon Bonaparte has now taken over Cairo and essentially has conquered Egypt.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I
what
do
what
want to
ha-
state though that sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I was I was just going to say something about that battle too.
Mhm.
Is yeah, the Mamelukes were using they were using modern weaponry too, but the Mamelukes are known for being lancers and expert horsemen swordsmanship.
Yeah.
So it was because they've been around since the Crusades.
Hmm.
They've been around since Saladin. So this is kind of like a new meets the old, and it's the end of an era because Mamelukes are definitely not that I can think of used in any major battle after that because this just shows how ineffective their style of combat was because also with wearing all the jewels they were wearing their traditional armor as well, which was part of the reason why they were taken down so easily. You're a bright, shiny fucking like beacon coming in the middle of a fucking well, I guess it was a watermelon field, not a desert, but it's still very bright, and you're shining with all of this jewelry and armor and adornment. And a rifleman, even not a very experienced one, can be like, "All right, I can pick my target from like 200 yards away. We're good."
200 yards away with a musket. I'd love to see
That's
it.
about the
Yeah,
extent of
yeah.
its accuracy. That's like the maximum
That's
distance
not
of
even
its
about
accuracy,
that,
but
that.
you'd
That's a
probably
I
be
big
don't know
if. That's
about
a
fine
big if.
that.
That's a big if. That's a
sending a
big if.
volley.
But
You'd be
yeah,
fine
as a
sending a
volley,
volley
yes,
of it.
yeah,
The
yeah,
kill
as a
zone was
volley, yeah.
80.
We called them
But
the.
what, Andrew? You good?
But yeah,
Andrew, did you
after
have
this,
something to
he
say?
went to Cairo, right? And he
Yeah, yeah. So
about
anyway,
that?
so
No, about
he
the
had a
battle?
call.
No, not really.
He conquers Egypt. He conquers Egypt. He's in Cairo. Um, what is he going to do now?
Cairo.
Well, he kind of wants to
Hmm.
please the Egyptian people, and he kind of starts talking to like their religious leaders,
He's gonna take over the
and
Middle
he
East.
says, well, he says like, I will convert, and I'll have my soldiers convert to Islam. I don't think that really happened because guess what? Um, in Islam, you can't drink alcohol and you have to get circumcised. That is not very appealing to a French soldier.
No, it is not.
So that is not very appealing to the regular French
So
soldier
yeah, I
at
don't think
all.
that actually
I,
happened.
I don't think that really happened, but I do know that Napoleon kind of made that claim that he would do that. I don't know if he did or not, but he did
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that he would have done that. That at this time he went inside one of the Great Pyramids. I think it was the largest one. In fact, his I believe his soldiers even climbed the Great Pyramid as well. And for a moment, because the way they entered the Great Pyramid was from an old tunnel made by grave robbers like 1,000 years ago. So by
Hmm.
the time like they would enter the king's tomb within the pyramid, all the treasures had already been robbed 1,000 years ago. So when he entered, it
But
was
that
already
was
kind of
actually,
what.
sorry, going on my architecture thing, that was actually not the main burial chamber of the pyramid. That was
Mm,
a decoy chamber.
that was a
And
decoy
they
chamber.
found the actual entrance, like, I think a lot later. I think it was
Mm.
like the early 1900s or
If
late
I had to
1800s.
guess, if I had to guess, it was the
Well,
British that actually robbed them, not the
this
thieves. But
entrance. What I'm saying,
Perhaps.
this entranceway was made by grave robbers to break in.
yeah, hmm,
Yeah,
So
and that's just what I'm saying is like the Egyptians that built the pyramids knew that they were big targets and they knew about grave robbers because they've been doing it for centuries.
of course,
So when they built the pyramids, they intentionally made it to where it's like, yeah, they're going to think it's here. Let's build a decoy one there. And they built a decoy. And then the actual entrance they hid and they put the giant stones in front of it and completely sealed it off to where from the
well,
outside, unless
well,
you were the designer or you were the person that put the stones there, you had no idea where the front entrance was,
well,
where
from
the
what
actual entrance was that went into the queen's burial chamber and the king's
mhm.
burial chamber.
Well, from what I saw and what they said that this entranceway led to some burial chamber and it was robbed. So, um, I think that
Correct.
you're right, but that's just what I
No,
that's
you're
just
right
that's just what
too.
they
It
said.
was another burial
Yeah,
chamber.
it's just what they said.
also,
Um,
It was the decoy.
but
before we get too far away from it, there is that one thing, Levi, that you brought up a while ago to
Oh,
me
this
about
fucking.
the rumor.
Yeah, I'll bring that up as soon as I finish. But
Okay,
he goes with the religious leaders into the through the tunnel and into that burial chamber, and he asks to be left alone. Like he asks to be left alone for a couple minutes, and he is. And when he comes out, one of his men looks at him, and says, "Sir, are you all right? Like what happened in there?" And he looks as pale as a ghost. And he says, "Well, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm never going to talk about it." And towards the end of his life, Napoleon's life, he gets close. He gets very close to telling one person that what happened in that chamber, but he decides to not tell them because it's really his own personal story, and I bet he feels like nobody would have ever believed him if he told them what had happened. Did he see the ghost of Alexander the Great in there? Who knows? did he see God himself tell him he was destined for greatness? Who knows what he saw in there or what happened to him in there. But all we know is that when he was left alone for so and so many minutes, he came out kind of different, to say the least. But
Pretty wild. Pretty wild stuff.
this isn't no mummy's curse, by the way. Or maybe it was. Who knows?
Who knows?
Nah, you gotta open a sarcophagus to make a mummy's curse.
I believe the stone sarcophagus was already open.
Uh-oh.
But that would have been by the grave robbers 1,000 years ago. But anyway,
and that's why they got conquered by a bunch of other people.
Anyway, there is this. I guess it's not very popular anymore, but I remember as a kid, hearing this and then looking it up and realizing, oh, well, that's not true at all. That apparently there has always been this rumor that Napoleon ordered a cannon to shoot at the Sphinx to blow the nose off, which is completely not true.
Oh yeah,
that is completely not true. In fact,
I love that. That's a rumor, though.
I believe Napoleon himself is rolling in his grave, thinking that, knowing that people actually probably believe that. Because when Napoleon came to Egypt, he brought many scientists, archaeologists. In fact, he founded a university, a school in Cairo, the Napoleon School, or university or academy. I can't remember what it was called. But he brought many scientists with him, historians to study. He went to Egypt not just to conquer, but to learn and bring back knowledge to Europe.
And it doesn't add up. It makes sense that he would blow it up.
Yeah, he doesn't. It doesn't add up. Because why would he? A lot of his entourage that he brought with him saw the Sphinx, and saw just how marvelous it was, and it's still marvelous today. It's a huge structure. But yeah, it would be very out of character for Napoleon to intentionally destroy something that's historical and has such great significance.
The one thing that I want to state that building on that whole historical and how he was over there, not to destroy, and he was a very scholarly man. He was trying to learn more, trying to figure out more. He actually brought the person over who found the Rosetta Stone. So he's the reason that we understand both Greek Demotic. No, we understand the Greek, we understand the Demotic, and we understand the hieroglyphics. It's because he brought an archaeologist that found the Rosetta Stone and then translated it.
That's amazing.
I never knew that.
I can't remember the guy's name. It was French as fuck, though. I'm not kidding. It's one of the most French fucking names you'd ever hear.
He also had one guy in his entourage that had a wooden leg, and but he loved his spirit so much that he brought him everywhere he went.
Napoleon was just like, hey, I really fucking like this guy. Let's go.
I can't remember his name, but he had a wooden leg. He got it blown off.
I found the guy's name. It's Bouchard.
The wooden leg guy?
Bouchard. No, this is the guy that found the Rosetta Stone. It was Bouchard. It's not telling me his last name right now, and I don't care to keep looking for it because I had to memorize it for a test one time, and besides that, I don't really care about knowing it. All I know is his first name is Bouchard, and it's probably I know Pierre it has Bouchard. A bunch of S's and Pierre Bouchard. How is that not French as fuck?
Bouchard.
Yeah, that's pretty French.
There's Frenchy. There's two different spellings of it, but yeah, the man was definitely French.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get my little fishing wire and throw it at this line to pull back on track. So we had the battle over of the watermelons or the battle of the pyramids, whatever you want to call
Jesus
it.
Christ.
Both are factually correct. I like battle of the watermelons a little more. That's just me. After this, he takes over Cairo, essentially taking over all of Egypt because let's be honest, most of it's desert. Um, and what he's doing now is Napoleon has plans to keep going east. He has plans for the Middle East and stuff. But the British are like, nah, homie, remember,
Oh,
we're the whale.
Lord Nelson.
And the Battle of the Nile happens, and the
Man,
French Navy gets blasted.
it is one of the greatest naval battle. It is tactically one of the greatest naval battles ever fought in history, and how Lord Nelson just outmaneuvers the French
Mm-hmm.
is insane. Um, so to give you a
And
little
this
bit,
is something that we see
yeah,
consistently with the British Navy also, is that they just don't lose. They don't.
they don't lose. The British Navy, we don't lose. um, but
Like honestly, they don't.
so how the French had their ships set up? They had their French set up with their guns pointed towards the way that they thought Lord Nelson would be coming from, which was that's a smart idea, right? Lord Nelson saw
Yeah.
this before, and he thought, well, what if I make kind of just like this roundabout kind of way on them? You know, what if I just say screw it and I charge my ships directly in and we just outflank them, which is what he did. And it worked marvelously. In fact, the largest ship in the French Navy was destroyed at that battle. It had caught fire. I can't remember the name, but it had caught fire. And once the fire had reached the gunpowder storage, it was a massive explosion. And it was
Yeah.
probably it had to have been the loudest thing these sailors had ever heard, probably throughout the rest of their lives. In fact, the fighting had stopped for 10 whole minutes after the explosion.
People are
That's
just like,
how
what the fuck?
that's how big the explosion was. And
That's
then
wild. That's crazy.
Lord Nelson, being the greatest British admiral to have ever sailed the seas, was victorious, and he completely. Let's just put it this way: the reason why Lord Nelson doesn't go on land, well, because he's not good on land. He's good. He's good at the sea, and also because
Yeah.
he says, well, Napoleon's cut off now. He has no way to get out of Egypt, and so just kind of
Mm-hmm.
fucks off.
Yeah. He basically cuts his line off and just like, okay, deuces. I'm out.
All right, boys,
Yeah.
let's roll up anchors. We're done here.
But yeah, so that happens at the end of 1798. And because of this, in shortly after in 1799, Napoleon relinquishes command in Egypt and returns to France because the French Revolution is still going on and things are pretty chaotic still over in France. So he's like, all right, I need to. Well, nothing's happening for me over here anymore because we lost we can't get across the Nile. Supplies are cut off. Nothing we can do really. Um, so he goes back to France and he overthrows the directory and he is elected the first consul of the consulate, basically putting him into major power. Um, is there anything else you guys want to elaborate on this?
I think this is a on the first console. I have nothing to add to it, and I think ending on the first console is a good stopping point for now.
I think so too. Yeah. We're an hour and a half into this, and we've put out a good
Wait, there's something I
like.
want to talk about with Josephina too, with him coming back from Egypt. I know
Oh yeah,
you
he
guys
divorced his
I
want to
wife.
forgot
probably
about
wrap it
that
up.
chick.
Oh
No, I
yeah,
just
yeah,
forgot about her.
yeah,
Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, I
Let,
should have said it real
let,
quick.
let me elaborate. Yeah, let me
Okay.
elaborate what happens. So he goes off to fight these wars. The whole time, Josephina is being the absolute textbook definition of a French whore.
Yep.
She is just
Exactly.
sleeping around with everybody, and
She's spending
Napoleon
his
doesn't
money.
know.
She's spending his money.
Yeah, yeah, Napoleon doesn't know until near the end of the campaign in Egypt when he receives a letter from a confidant there that's saying like, "Hey, she's cheating on you like all the time," and it destroys this man. It rocks him to his core because he truly loves this woman, truly cares for her, and she just blatantly doesn't care. And when he does get back to France, he is hailed as a hero, a victor, time over and time again for Italy and for Egypt. And he is staunch on, I'm going to divorce you. I am divorcing you because you are unfaithful. But she begs him and pleads. But the only thing that keeps him with her this time, he will divorce her later for a different reason, but he stays with her this time is because of the kids, because he has grown to truly love those kids as his own. That is the only reason he stayed with her.
By the way, we should mention that
But
Josephine had 2 kids before she was with Napoleon.
yeah, I didn't mention how many it was. I just said that she
Mhm.
had kids earlier, but specifying the
Oh,
amount is
I
also
didn't.
very
I didn't
good.
know if
I
you did.
forgot to
I didn't know
mention
if
it
you
was
did.
two.
Yeah, I didn't know if you did.
Yeah, you're good. It's okay. It's okay. I didn't say that there was two, but anyways, he loved these kids. And when it comes time and he gets appointed, does he get appointed consul before or after Austria? Consul for life.
But he gets appointed consul like in
At 8
1799.
Yeah, in 1800.
So
Yeah,
he
in
doesn't right after
1799.
Egypt he gets appointed.
But then he becomes consul for life in
Hmm.
1800, which
Yeah.
is a
Hmm.
100% textbook Julius Caesar move.
Textbook, baby.
So he be-
Always got to
so
bring
he
the
be-
textbook.
Yeah, so he becomes consul for life, and it turns out that Josephine is she's a political animal. She has all these connections to all these families and people in the upper crust of Paris. So she is good for getting people to back Napoleon and to not put up a fight or not to like cause any trouble. So she is good for him right now in his ambition
In the
in that sort
political
of a
world,
stance, but also at the same time, yeah, in the political realm, she's
she's
killing it.
not good for.
But also at the
She's
same
yeah.
time,
She's. Go ahead,
yeah,
Matthew.
go ahead.
She's not. Oh, okay. She's not good for him when it comes to having a stable fucking relationship.
Yeah, yeah. It's
breaking my
like
man's.
you
She's
have to
breaking
make
my
some
man's heart every
sacrifices.
fucking day.
But that's
So.
kind of how she saw the relationship from the start, and Napoleon didn't see it that way.
Mm.
She saw him as a way of like political standing to increase her political standing, to increase her like leverage in that realm. So she looked at him as like that, and maybe over time came to truly love him. But I won't really comment
By
on
that
that too
time,
much
his
because I
love
haven't
for her
read
was
too
already
much.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read too much in about
Also,
her personally or his feelings. Well, his feelings personally, I've read into about, and he is staunchly because he wrote to her all the time, and she never responded while he was out on campaign.
what the
So,
fuck,
yeah, yeah, no, like when I said textbook French whore,
guys?
I meant textbook French whore.
Yeah. What's up,
I mean,
Matthew?
okay, so
French women
I mean,
whores,
okay,
though.
like I hate to say this, but it kind of sounds like our boy Napoleon is a cuck.
Shut up.
No,
Shut up. Nah.
It
Nah.
is.
no.
He's over here.
He's not
He's
a.
like, oh, I'm gonna write to you all the time, but you're never gonna respond.
He's a.
You're cheating me all the time, but I'm gonna stay
But he
with you.
doesn't
He
know
Always
it.
didn't
getting cucked
know.
over. Yeah, he
Levi,
did.
Levi, can
Afterwards,
I take this one? Can I take this one real quick?
afterwards, he knew. You just said that the one dude told him when he
I
was in
say we
Egypt.
don't.
I'm
Hey,
gonna end this.
I say we don't argue with him on this one. Actually,
We'll just let him. We'll just let him think that because
Oh, good. No. Tell me why I'm wrong. Go ahead. Tell me.
I don't think I know. I'm not saying that.
Because you're telling me right here. You're telling me right here that he knew that she was cheating, and that he kept writing, and she wouldn't respond.
No,
But
he
dude-
did writing before.
No, he didn't.
How
know
did you
that she
get
was
that?
cheating while
I told you.
He didn't know. He
Until
didn't know she was cheating
near the
when he
end of
was
the
writing to
campaign
her.
in Egypt.
Oh my
And-
gosh, you both are talking at the same time, one at a time.
Jesus Christ, Andrew. Okay, listen up. I will speak on this. Matthew, please try to just restrain
Yeah, you're
yourself.
good.
He did not know she was cheating on him while he was writing to her. He would find out towards the end of the campaign.
No, I understand that. I understand that.
Why I do not think he is a cuck is because the only reason why he stayed with her was because she could get him favors politically and she could help him politically. Okay.
Okay, but
So
that's
there's a
not the
benefit
way
to
Matthew
this.
is wording it.
What?
Because, well, that's not the way you guys are wording it. Is because you just said that. Because that I get, I understand that, and I'm like, that's a smart political move. You do it. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton did it. I understand. People do it all the time. What I'm hearing though, and what you said was that he wrote all the time and never got responses.
Yeah,
Okay,
she
and
would
then-
respond few and in between, but also at the same time, you got to take in the time period and understand that he's in war. He also doesn't know if all of his messages are getting through, or if all her messages are getting back to
He
him.
doesn't know
Because
that-
also
he might,
a little,
he might, sorry, real quick, Matt. He might die the next day. Who knows?
yeah, but also the way that it was found out, like this is also something really shitty on the British people too. Is he sent a letter back to him, back to her, back to Josephine, and back to his confidant in France. He sent a letter back to them, but the ship got intercepted by the British, and the British got the letter, and they published it in the paper. And I'm like, what a fucking dick move. They published that this man's wife was cheating on him in
I
the
love that.
paper, and that he was distraught
Holy-
about it and heartbroken.
I love that.
Holy
No,
fuck.
Napoleon.
That's taking
Napoleon
war
is
to
not
another
cuck.
level.
Napoleon is not a cuck. He is a very smart man. He was going to divorce her. The only thing that kept him with her was the kids. It wasn't even the political things, because at that point he didn't care. He wasn't consul yet. He just wanted to get rid of her, but he cared
that's
for
the
the
point.
kids.
That's what I'm saying. That doesn't make sense, though.
What do you mean?
What do you mean it
So
was
you're
for the
s-
kids?
Do you think
He
he's a
didn't
cuck?
have any children, but he loved those children like his own because he had been with them for like, I don't know, 10 years almost at that point. So he
Okay.
raised these children.
But that doesn't. That kind of goes against what I mean. Then you're still a cuck because you're still getting cucked over by your wife. But it's like, oh, I'm here for the kids. It's like, come on, dude.
Oh no, she didn't cheat on him again after that, because then he became the consul, and then he became consul for life, and then he became emperor. And you don't cheat on the consul, you don't cheat on the consul for life, and you don't cheat on the emperor and maintain your position, your power, and the luxury. That's just
And
how
we
it
could-
works.
and we
Like,
could say
she
he's
understood,
technically-
like, she had one chance.
And we could say he's technically a Chad because he then divorces her ass and marries a princess.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
He could be. He could be a Chad later too. I'm just saying at that point in time when he didn't know. I'm saying in that point when he wasn't consul yet, and he knew he wasn't getting responses, and then he finds out that she's cheating on him, but he comes back and he's like, "I'm gonna stay with you." You are in cuck level, my friend. At that point,
I mean, I
Okay,
can see
I
the
think-
way. I can see your way of thinking. I understand.
Okay.
yeah, just
I
at
mean,
that certain point, at that
I'm not
one
necessarily
point.
agreeing with
You-
it, but I can see
You don't know what the definition of cuck is. He was getting cucked by his wife, and he was getting cuckolded by his wife, but he was not a cuck because he is not a weak, effeminate, unmanly, inadequate man who was often dominated by their female partner. He came back and was like, bitch, you doing this behind my back? Bitch, you cheating on me?
No, he
Bitch, you
wasn't.
being unfaithful?
No, he didn't.
Yes,
he
he
didn't.
did. He did.
No, because if he did that, then he would have left her.
He was going to leave. Shit, how much do I have to tell you that she begged for him to stay, and he only stayed for the kids? What's
So
wrong
next
with you?
episode,
Nah, Napoleon's a cuck.
He's not a cuck.
Yep.
So
Big
next
old cuck.
episode.
Anyways,
Next episode.
that's going to be it for part 1 of the Napoleonic Wars, which technically we didn't even get to the Napoleonic Wars yet. But I think this episode was important to lay out the groundwork of everything that's happening. We know a lot about Napoleon now and what he's done and the type of person he is, cuck aside.
Shut up.
And we also kind of see the battles that he's been in and the people that he's fought and things like that. So this is going to be the end of our part 1 for the Napoleonic Wars. Guys, I don't know about you, but I think part 2 is going to be a long one. Like maybe our longest episode ever because there's a lot to go through. I mean, don't you think? Like we got
hell,
15 years
we'll
plus
make 3 parts.
the end.
We'll make 3 parts if we have to.
We might have to. I don't know. This is a lot, and it's going to be like this a lot for if we ever do like the American Revolution or World War II or anything like that. It's going to be
parts for this,
a lot like this.
3 parts for this would be perfect because right now we're doing like his early life and like his rise to prominence, and then the next one we're going to do about the Imperial era and like the golden age of Napoleon, and then we can do
maybe next episode
we can do the
fall,
the Jordan the Jordan after baseball era.
The Jordan after, yeah. So maybe next episode we'll do from 1800 to like Russia, the Russia invasion. It's a good comparison. It makes sense. So yeah, we'll do the 6 years in a row dynasty of Jordan and the Bulls.
Well, this is perfect. I've got notes for that already. Sweet.
Perfection. So yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. As always, you can find this podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and a plethora of other distributing services. I think we're literally on everything for real now. Like we're on so many different things. Go look up a podcast service. We're on it. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/Andrew. Remember, leaving a review is extremely helpful. It helps our channel grow and it helps our podcast grow. Go ahead and check out the other podcasts, the Gaming Block podcasts. I do that with my other 2 co-hosts that aren't Matthew and Levi. But yeah, I think that's about it. Do you guys have any other closing thoughts or ideas for the audience?
Hey man, I'm just ready to pick up on on part 2.
On part 2? All right. Matthew, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Matthew's still debating if he should fight over this cuck thing or not.
I'm not going to.
All right, well, that's going to be... Well, he's a cuck. All right, well, that's going to be it for part 1 of the Napoleonic Wars. As always, thank you so much. We love you. At least I do. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Bye. Have a beautiful time.
Just remember, Andrew's wrong.